I'm like this, no be small meeting. I Peter Obi get with all the obedient all over the world yesterday night. If you look at myself, I did that meeting live and direct. Now go see say my name people did yourself. I was present in that meeting, and for that meeting, a better Microsoft Word. Now Peter Obi drop. For those of you who don't feel attend the meeting, no worry, relax yourself. So I could just listen. And as they listen, make sure they share the video, make all other obedient all over the world. When they hear everything Peter Obi talk concerning this election matter and when they sub for the Nigerian lifestyle. So when I watch the video.
Election took place on 25th of February. Result was announced when? About the 1st of March. Between the 1st of March and May 29th, is a clear, call it about almost 90 days. Within these 90 days, I'm sorry to say it, I would have been able to have a respectable economic team that would have sat down with me. Even as I talk now, if you say Peter Obi is president tomorrow, I'll give it to you in 1 month. Respected Nigerians that can sit down and we say, this is where we're going to go. If we're going to remove subsidy, I said it again, look at my tweets. We're not going to pull it. It's like when you have multiple fractures. You're not going to deal with all of it immediately. It's something you need to remove it one after the other. I said we'll remove the corruption side of it. So we know the actual subsidy we're paying. There's so many components in this subsidy that when you listen to, because I've listened to some experts make their comments, you remove that. Having removed that, you now decide on the component of subsidy, whether it's budgeted or not. If it's, for example, when you remove it, maybe what will remain will be 40% of what you're paying or 50%. You cannot say from this day to this where we're going to remove this component. We've seen a former governor come in and said that somebody, David said, he's tired of making money this way, that he has made enough. I don't think I've ever seen anybody who said it's not enough money. Not even Warren Buffett also, who is involved in investing. So for somebody to say that, it shows you what is happening there. So I would have done all that. And I've said we would have also seen what is happening with the issue of the refineries, not the one of government. Modern refineries that people have set up here and there, which they are complaining that their problem is supply of crude and other things. So that there's a combination of simultaneous things you need to do, quite a number of things that would have helped to manage this better and everything. There's a combination of things you would have discussed with people in all the stakeholders that would have made it better. It would still be painful. It's just like what I said before, that there's a difference between giving you some form of anesthesia before pulling out your tooth and just doing it without anything. There must be a thinking through. It's an economic decision. It's not going to be easy. If it's a return school to the original owners in Anambra State, there were issues with it. People were on strike. The schools were on strike for months. But before we returned it, we made sure that we went through all the beginning to the end to mitigate the problems. For example, saying that all teachers that are employed must be paid by government. They must be maintained by government. That The churches and this thing can no longer run the school. They don't have the resources. There's so many things we put in place that we will continue to do the capital projects. We will continue to do this. But they will take care of the administration and management, but will support them. I can tell you, I don't know what has changed. At the time I was governor, no state in the north, no state in the east, no state in the west can compare their secondary schools or primary schools with ours. We were the only people where their secondary schools that have computers, buses, this, everything. Go to those schools today. The infrastructures were rebuilt. We don't own them. Private schools in Anambra State were supplied computers. Private schools in this. So we thought it through. As a governor, I decided that every person, old person in Anambra State, from the about 200 communities, who is above 75 years and have no means or does not have any form of pension, the government will pay the person 5,000. You can go and verify what I'm telling you now. Across the whole state, 5,000 every month. I had security in each community, employed and paid directly by government in each community. I bought each community vehicle, but this is we are taught through, so I knew it was going to be sustainable. People ask me then, where are you going to get money to do this? I say, look at our calculation. Look at what we are getting. Look at why we're going to do it. What I'm saying is that there are things you do, but you have to be taught through. Stakeholders have to be invited. Other people have to have their input. It's not just something, it's not something of courage. Because people say, oh, if you have the courage, there's nothing, you have the courage. If you're determined to do it, you're determined to do it. I said any day, David, I'll pull people out of poverty in the north. I'll change the country. It's not a question of courage. You need to give people the numbers. If you say you're going to save cost of governance, people need to see the numbers. You cannot tell people to sacrifice. You cannot tell people to go through pain when they are seeing you live a life of a rock star, where you're buying brand new Jeeps from all over the world at a very expensive price, and you're saying, this is this. No, you cannot say you want, like we've said, we want food security, and this is this. Yes, we want food security. But what are we doing? People must hear it, people must see it. And like I keep saying, it is time we hear from those in charge.
My question is, so recently there was an unfortunate incident that occurred at the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos, where a former CBN governor was arraigned for illegal possession of firearms. And more concerning was the high-handed display by the DSS at the court premises. So the question is, how would a Peter Obi administration, which I know we will get back, mandate, handle such reckless display of lawlessness and total disregard for the rule of law by government agencies? So that's my question. Chukugazegi, Your Excellency, sir. Dalo.
My sister, let me tell you. Let me ask you a question. Where do you live?
I live in the United States.
Okay. Do you know that today, and I'm sure you know, the biggest contributor to the biggest item that contributes to United States GDP is an intangible asset called the rule of law. It is not oil. It is not a distance. You have a way to verify it. The Western world economy, the greatest contributor, or one of the greatest contributors, let me use one of them, is intangible assets called rule of law. The reason why people want to live in the United States, want to live in London, want to live in anything, is not about, anything other than there's law and order. So if I go there and do a business and it fails, I can report. There will be A, B, C, D, F. If somebody comes and attack me, if somebody does this and all that and everything. I lived in the UK for years. I told you this. I lived in the UK for years. And my house was in my name. My house is in my name. You know, I'm a Nigerian man. So I didn't put Mr. and Mrs. So it's Mr. Peter Obi. I live there with my wife. Her name is not in the. So, and I decided I'm going to sell this house. I want to move from my next house. I own on one street, 2 houses. I live in one. One was rented out. So when I decided, okay, I'm going to sell this one and go to the other one. And I went to the estate agent and said, I want to sell this house for this amount and everything. Went to the lawyer. The lawyer said to me, you live in this house with your wife? I said, yes. He said, for how long have you lived in this house? I said, I bought this house in 1995, and we're now in year. No, I bought it at about 93, and we're now in about year 2001 or so. He said, was it up to 10 years? I said, yes, maybe not exactly, about 9 going into the 10th year. He said, does your wife know you're selling it? I said, what are you asking me? My wife's name is not in this building, even if he knows. He said, listen, you need to inform her. And he said, listen, if 2 of you have lived in this house for 10 years, you can't sell it without her permission. Because it's part owner of the house. And it's your wife. It's true her name is not there. I don't know whether it was a good whether that legal advice was true or not. What I mean, I didn't even ask another lawyer. I went home to my wife and said, you know, we're selling this house. I went to this man, look at what he said. So he said, you sign consent. So we must go back there, sign consent. What am I saying? There's law and order. We operate with the rule of law. Where you live in the United States today, what is keeping you is law and order. What happened that day in court is the least expected of us as a nation. It's even worse that it was between 2 agencies of government. I'm not speaking for any of the agencies, but it shouldn't happen. I'm not speaking for Emefiele, but there are things that happen in Nigeria that surprises me. This man was CBN governor for 5 years and was renewed for another 5 years by APC government. So they must have found him good to have renewed him for another 5 years. Because I'm sure if he was not doing well, he would not have been renewed. And then, just about 3 months ago, he was given the 3rd highest honor award of the country, CFR. It's after GCFR, GCON, CFR. That means he's done very well. And suddenly now, we can't even grant him a bail to go home. And then wait for court section. So I'm confused. You know, and that's why I said, we must have a new Nigeria that is accord on rule of law. Because these are intangible assets that is low-hanging fruits that we can use to attract investments I said it before you asked that. I want to see a day those who abuse Mr. Obi, because it's not just this, there's so many of them, those who even mimic me, those who even use wrong pictures of me and everything, can do so freely without anybody touching them. It happened to me. I said it as governor. People were calling me names. People were doing anything. It's not my business, even to today. And there are people who don't want to hear anything about Peter Obi. You know, and people call you, what did you do to this man? I said, well, listen, if everybody like you, then there's a problem. If today everybody in Nigeria said, is Peter Obi or nobody, I will leave the country. There's something wrong. There will be people who don't want to see you at all, who don't like your face at all. That is why it's a country. And you must respect that. I come out in public, see people talk bad of me, do everything. When we campaigned, people called me all sorts of names. People called my wife names. People do all sorts of things. If you look at my campaign today, you will never see where Peter Obi open his mouth and be calling another candidate's name without reference to maybe something that will make a better Nigeria. There must be a reference why I will mention that person's name. You never see me where, if you look at some of the candidates, there's those who made it a point of all their statements is about Peter Obi. I've not said anything about them. Every candidate to today, I respect them. Those who are older than me, like Vice President Atiku, Bola Tinubu himself, I do. I have all respect for them. They are my respected elder brothers, and I give them respect. I've said it repeatedly. I'm not challenging anything about whether Tinubu is president or not. I'm challenging the process through which he became president. And that process for me is far more fundamental than whatever he's doing now. We must come to the right process. If we say this is the process of going through this, let's do it through that. Not that you just came in from anyhow or from the window and started cleaning the house. No. If there's a door with designated people who pass through, come and pass through there. I will remain respectful, obedient, everything to you. But if you go through the wrong door, I'll challenge it. And that's what I'm challenging.